The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is May 29th, 2020, and this week, episode 201, Fire, Psyop, and Monkey Thief. My name's Basil.
And this is Gonz. Welcome to guaranteed demonetized live stream of Canary Cry News Talk. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter. And we're ready to go here.
I like that. Guaranteed demonetized. That's very fun. It's a badge of honor.
I guess, but yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Hope everyone's doing well out there.
We made it, Gonz. We made it to our second show of the week. That's okay. I'm very happy about that. You know, we get to keep our spree going. And happy 201st episode. Yeah,
event episode 201, as Black Swan says. That's right. This is just a big simulation, everybody. Just to let everybody know, we'll
be running some simulations. We'll be creating some models, and just really planning out how to take over the world.
Yes.
In this episode, and you guys get to be a part of it. I'm so happy everybody's here. I'm looking at the chat. A new user called I Am a Fan of Canary Cry Radio over on Twitch.
All right off the top.
Yeah, I like that.
Very good.
We'll be giving some more shout outs to our new cool Twitch users. And Gonz, we are very close to making partner over on Twitch. So I want to give a big old thank you to our Twitch viewers and, the YouTube viewers, DLive guys, all you guys, you're all great. But I really like seeing the new usernames coming in on the Twitch. Anything new and exciting in your personal life that you'd like to broadcast to the world?
Nothing really from the personal life, but I did get a message from Eric, and I was going to share this last time, and I totally forgot, so I apologize, Eric. He put together a website. It's on the screen for those watching, satanworldorder.com/coronavirus. It's got hyperlinks to a lot of information regarding the Rona, videos and all kinds of stuff. So I want to drop the link in the chat there, and if anybody wants to check it out, go to satanworldorder.com/coronavirus. It's kind of your one-stop shop for all of the stuff we've been talking about and others have covered regarding the Rona. And
the Rona, you got to get the Rona. And I want to remind everybody, when long story short, go to canarycrynewstalk.com, look at the show notes. We got links to every article and more that we talk about on the show. And, a lot of people ask us for resources and articles and things, how to communicate these things to the people they know and love well. And really, we focus on looking at articles for the most part. Especially regarding Corona, especially this week. We've got a lot of articles that you can share with your normie friends that will start to lead them down the right path without getting too tinfoil hat on them. Because you really don't need to get too tinfoil hatty on people for them to start waking up and realizing that they're getting lied to. It's there. We have the resources. So go to canarycrynewstalk.com, and every episode has show notes and links to all the articles. So there you go.
All right. So before we get really going here, I do have the shortest update that we might ever have on the show.
No.
Welcome to Chinese News!
Trump tweets, China.
Welcome to Chinese News!
That's our Chinese news for the day.
You just tweeted the word China?
In China. I think
any punctuation, exclamation marks, that could be very telling.
He's just upset. He really doesn't like China. for the Ronas. And I think today he actually announced that I think they're really stepping away from the WHO, the World Health Organization. So that's actually happening, I think. So
yeah, the official breakaway.
Yeah, the official breakaway. What is it? Who's it? The who exit? I don't know.
Oh, I see. Hooksit.
Okay.
So there is no Flippy update today. Don't worry. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings. A lot of people can't wait for the next Flippy update. Some people don't understand it. They think I'm talking about a dolphin. So for those people, you're lucky.
Have we had somebody bring that up?
Oh yeah, they thought I was talking about dolphins.
Okay, well, robot dolphins.
Which maybe I should. Yeah, there's some robot dolphins out there. We got to keep an eye on those robot dolphins. But we have a different update.
Yes,
Razzle dazzle.
that is right. And this is something that you can find. Actually, I first saw it on the CanaryCry.community dank memes thread, season 3. It was posted by FaceLikeTheSun, and it's a picture, or I guess it's a picture of a note in some office somewhere that says, "To whomever is placing googly eyes all over the office, please stop, thank you." And then over the word "stop" is a couple googly eyes, and I can only think of one person who would do such a thing.
They caught me, man. Yeah, if you're looking for a fun way to pass the day, go to Michael's or Walmart or somewhere and just get a pack of like 100 tiny googly eyes. Just start sticking them all over stuff.
In the name of Basil.
Yeah. That's how. Yes, it'll become a symbol, a worldwide symbol of resistance.
How are you fighting the New World Order? Placing googly eyes all over the office.
Googly eyes, man. It's a subtle propaganda campaign to drive the powers that be.
I like fantasizing this idea that whoever did this is a listener of the show, and they got the idea from watching you live streaming.
Sure. For sure. It'll be like the hand signal from Hunger Games,
right.
That's being used.
Yeah.
People just need to start putting googly eyes on their gas mask and stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
And, so that's something, it's not much of an update, but there you go. There's something.
It's fun.
Get things going to replace the Flippy update. But there's also another update, probably a little more important.
It's got to be biblical.
Chris White just finished a debate with Joel Richardson. Will the Antichrist claim to be the Jewish Messiah? And I got through it on 2x speed because I didn't have too much time. And I listened to the whole thing. I also listened to Chris White's sort of a response to the whole debate. And I thought Chris did a pretty good job of defending his position, why he thinks the Antichrist will present himself as the Jewish Messiah. And Joel had some okay points, but the thing that really bothered me was one that as normally happens in debates, they talk past each other. They're not really talking on certain points that are brought up, and because of the fact that there's a timing issue of when things are supposed to happen, or at least biblically, a sort of a eschatological timeline that they disagree on. That's really the crux of the disagreements of who the Antichrist might present himself to be. But also Joel Richardson basically said that Chris White's position on eschatology, this particular position about the Antichrist claiming to be the Jewish Messiah, is a satanic position. And I kind of took offense, not offense per se, but it was just kind of like, really, you're going to call this a satanic position?
It's one of those things where you can just put the term satanic in front of anything and try to make some sort of case for it.
Yeah.
Listeners should know my opinion already that satanic is a very specific thing. So just calling everything satanic is not very helpful. But why did he call that position satanic? I don't understand.
Well, I think, I'll let, go listen to the debate. I'm just paraphrasing what I heard, which was basically that you see the rise of anti-Semitism crop up again. And his position is basically, I think the way he described it was, Chris is basically the theologian that is legitimizing this idea that the the modern Jews are trying to take over the world, and it's one of those things where
anti-Semitic thing.
Yeah, it's an anti-Semitic.
The Antichrist will be the Jewish Messiah.
Right. Yeah. So
okay.
I mean, he's got it. There were obviously scriptures argued from both sides, and it's interesting. You got to listen to it, but they're both using the same scriptures, and they're coming up with different conclusions, and so this tends to be something that happens with any kind of
as old as time.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, Chris White did tell me that he listens to the show all the time. So what's up, Chris? And he says, I think it may be my favorite podcast.
Oh my gosh. Did he really say that? Or
he said that. No, that's not fake news. I didn't make that up. So you can ask him.
Okay. Well, yeah, if he sues for libel, then everybody will know that you're lying. But so far we're good. That's very cool.
Yes.
And we're big fans, and of course everybody who listens to the show is a big fan of everything Chris does. Well, maybe not everything, but his work.
Yeah, definitely one of the pioneers of the Christian truther space, if you will. So go to BibleProphecyTalk.com to check everything out. And he's also working on that pre-Wrath Rapture documentary. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be important for people to see the arguments from Scripture rather than, finagling the Scripture, I would say, to come up with other positions. But we're not going to really get into that.
Yeah. Amen.
In this episode.
I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
I want a big.
You want a big. What do you want?
A big give shout out to Smiley Pants. He's in the chat.
Smiley Pants, what up?
Notice
what up,
me.
brother?
How you doing, Smiley Pants? You can go meet Smiley Pants over at canarycry.community. Doing a lot of good work over there. And then actually, we'll be giving more shout outs later. So
okay.
Should we just jump right into some real news, Gons?
Is there anything happening right now? Is
there anything happening? I mean, it is almost a new month, and we almost made it through the month of May without a brand new, end of the world causing shenanigans. But of course, over the past few days, the riots have been starting. But yeah, let's get into it. Why don't you start out with some NWO stuff?
Oh, it's a new world order. It's here. Burn it all.
Burn it all.
Burn it all.
Actually, I think I messed up on my on my tabs.
Your jingles? Oh, your tabs.
My tabs. Yeah, this is it's a difficult thing to have all these different tabs going on the browser to show all the people's what's going on here.
Well, while you figure that out, I noticed I had been posting about the show to tell people when we go live on Facebook, and I had been putting the Twitch link in the post. And these Facebook posts were, considering how many people follow, the Canary Cry page, we got over 10,000 people there, stuff like that. I think Facebook was suppressing my posts because I was putting a Twitch link in there.
Oh, maybe.
Twitch and Facebook being notorious rivals.
I'm only seeing...
But I didn't put the link in there, and there's a lot more people tuning in from all over Facebook than there was.
Maybe the analytics needs to catch up because I'm only seeing 8 people from Facebook total watching.
Well, there's usually not very many people from Facebook, but people responding to the post and stuff. Okay. So I figured it out.
All right. So this is a tweet that went out from Washington Examiner, and this is if you're just listening and you're not watching, you're kind of missing out, because let me paint the picture. This is a MSNBC reporter talking about what's going on from last night and the fires and all that kind of stuff, and the visual is him standing in news report type of situation, and there's just a giant fire of a building behind him. And here's what he says.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started, and there's a crowd that.
Generally speaking, it's not unruly, but giant fire of building behind him.
The world is burning behind him. This is fine. It's just a nice peaceful protest. Nothing to see here, folks. So they got a nice little campfire back there, just trying to keep everybody warm. And they're passing around the marshmallows and making some s'mores. It's just a good old kumbaya protest, folks.
Maybe he thought he was back at Burning Man, and he just forgot where he was. He was supposed to be reporting on the civil unrest and the chaos on the streets, but instead, nothing unruly going on.
That is so funny.
Just peaceful. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. And we're going to talk some more.
We'll get into a lot more.
Yeah. We'll get into it. Are you good on that? You want to hit this next one?
There's nothing really to say other than just it's a ridiculous thing.
There apparently is something to say, and President Trump said it.
Yep.
And I think most people have heard this, but I'll read this straight from yahoo.com. Twitter flags Donald Trump looting shooting tweet as glorifying violence -update. All right. So if you live under a rock, here's a little brief description for you, and then we'll get into it. The White House is attacking Twitter's decision to flag one of President Donald Trump's tweets for violating the platform's rules about glorifying violence. A little accident there, Yahoo. Sorry. Platform's rules. Trump's tweet about the George Floyd protests in Minneapolis referenced the unrest in the city, with the president saying, quote, just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty, and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts. The phrase, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, was used by Miami's police chief in 1967 when he was talking about a crackdown on slum hoodlums. Slum hoodlums being in quotes. After Twitter slapped a label on the tweet, Trump's original message was tweeted out on the White House's official account. But Twitter flagged that tweet as well. That led a barrage of criticism from the White House. Quote, the president did not glorify violence. He clearly condemned it. At Jack and Twitter's biased, bad faith fact checkers have made it clear Twitter is a publisher, not a platform, the White House said, referring to Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. The White House also made comparisons to messages sent out by Iran's supreme leader Imam Saeed Ali Khamenei that were not flagged. This tweet violated the Twitter rules about glorifying violence. However, Twitter has determined that it will allow terrorists, dictators, and foreign propagandists to abuse its platform. That was a tweet from the White House on May 29th. Today, the chairman of the FCC, Ajit Pai, also tweeted out messages from Khamenei under the terms of Trump's executive order issued on Thursday. The FCC may ultimately be tasked with considering new regulation that could limit to scope of legal immunity that social media platforms enjoy over the way that they handle third-party content posted on their site. I'm going to skip this tweet from Ajit. A spokesperson for Twitter said in a statement, the tweets violate our policies regarding the glorification of violence based on the historical context of the last line. It's connected to violence and the risk it could inspire similar actions today. We've taken action in the interest of preventing others from being inspired to commit violent acts, but have kept the tweet on Twitter because it is important that the public still be able to see the tweet given its relevance to ongoing matters of public importance. With this notice, engagements with the tweet will be limited. People will be able to retweet with comment, but will not be able to like, reply, or retweet it. This was the first time the notice was used on one of Trump's tweets. The platform outlined its policies for world leaders in a blog post from last year, in which it said that, quote, if a tweet from a world leader does violate the Twitter rules, but there is a clear public interest value to keeping the tweet on the service, we may place it behind a notice that provides context about the violation and allows people to click through should they wish to see the content. Twitter has also said distinguishes between the types of reference to violent acts made by world leaders. In October, the company said, quote, presently foreign policy saber rattling on economic or military issues are generally not in violation of the Twitter rules. And here's an update at 5:33 a.m. 5:33 update.
Yeah.
Trump has responded in multiple tweets claiming Twitter is doing nothing about all of the lies and propaganda being Democratic Party. They have targeted Republicans, conservatives, and the President of the United States. Section 230 should be revoked by Congress. Until then, it will be regulated. Twitter is doing, then they reprint the tweet. Very useful. Thank you, Yahoo. In a separate tweet, he tags Fox News and Fox anchor Maria Bartiromo with the quote, the president has been targeted by Twitter. The official White House Twitter account has also quoted Trump's original flagged message, seemingly in a bid to boost its visibility. You obviously saw this happen as it happened, right, Gons?
Yeah. Well, I saw the tweet, and then I saw the tweet kind of disappear and get behind one of these violation things. And if you're watching on the screen, it's there. It says this tweet violates the Twitter rules about glorifying violence and blah blah blah. And I was a little, I don't know, not taken back, but it was kind of when I first read when the looting starts, the shooting starts. I mean, I had no idea that it was. I don't know that Trump actually referenced the Miami guy, the old story here. There's a Federalist Society link that I found that obviously talked about the same thing. Chief Walter Headley saying that the chief tried, quote, to control Liberty City by flooding the black ghetto with white officers equipped with shotguns and dogs. The year before, Headley had been quoted as saying, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, a phrase that would come to exemplify his no-nonsense philosophy as described by six-term Miami Mayor Maurice Fury. These events and statements demonstrate that even idealistic use of force policies are no match for poor police culture, attitudes, and practices. And I couldn't really find, I can't tell if this is like just a guy that was really hard-nosed and wanted to crack down on a really, a crime-filled part of town, or if it's like a legit, hey, the guy was a open white supremacist, whatever it is. And either way, not a good look for Trump. I don't know if he's got people telling him to say things that are, or maybe he just heard the phrase because he's from the Florida area and this thing, originated in Miami.
It just sounds like something he heard somebody say.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, that he was just kind of, hey, I've heard this thing. And I'm sure he meant it as like, hey, once the looting starts, then the shooting, not shooting the people, not shooting the protesters, but that these people that are doing the protests are going to start firing. And there was actually, I think there was a newscaster, I can't remember what. There's been so much happening so fast that we couldn't document everything for this episode, but there was a guy who basically was caught playing audio of gunshots during like the fires and during a lot of the riots.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I did not hear about that.
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was real bad. And there's a couple of people shaming him and stuff, right in person there. So, I mean, there's a lot of weirdness going on, but one thing I want to point out here, this Yahoo article is in the entertainment tab, Yahoo Entertainment. So it just goes to show,
which is another kind of a slam towards the president. There was during the election, the 2016 election, I forget who it was. It was one of the big media outlets. They would do all their reporting on Trump in the entertainment section,
right?
Not the politics section,
right?
Just sort of as a slam and a reference to his,
shenanigans,
time on television there.
Yeah.
I do gotta say, Guns, just as a fun note about the show, I think you hooked up the chat from YouTube to feed into driving people crazy.
Is it really? Should
people
I turn it
hated
off?
it? Yes.
Okay.
We almost had a riot in the chat section.
All right, hold on. Let me.
The Twitchers. No, I already banned it.
You banned it from Twitch.
I banned Restream bot. Yeah, but I can unban it if you want to just turn that off.
Okay, you did it. Great. No, I was going to see if that if that actually was good or bad. Obviously,
yeah, no.
Not good.
Apparently, the Twitch people they like their chat stream pure without the YouTube without the YouTube comments coming in. We're starting our own race war over here. We got to be careful.
Tech platform war.
Yeah, well, I got to push back a little bit on you there, Gons. I don't think he really thought at all about what he was saying. I don't think he was even I don't think he thought he was referring to anybody. I think it was just a thing that he heard somebody say while he was down in Florida and then just said it. You know, a lot of people, especially people on the left, like to give Trump, you know, they call credit. Him stupid. He's the dumbest person alive from their opinion, but also an evil genius who is able to send coded messages to trigger his racist Gestapo. But
I guess that's you're
that's
probably
like
right, but at the same time it's got to be the most unfortunate thing that he said that, and it just happens to be this like hard-nosed Caucasian guy who allegedly was a little overbearing on a black community in the 60s.
Well, and he may have been a racist. I mean, during the Civil Rights movement.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He may have been a racist guy, and but I don't think Trump is. I don't think he's specifically trying. Well, dog whistle. That's a term we haven't heard in a few months.
Yeah,
dog whistling. But anyways, enough about the tweet. There's enough to get into here. But what that did trigger was Trump's executive order about changing the rules on social media platforms.
You know, actually, he actually signed that executive order before all this stuff happened with the banning and the whole deal. So it was earlier in the day, the same day yesterday, he did the executive order thing, and I think it was right after that he started tweeting about it. And I mean, right away it didn't work. I guess the threat didn't happen, or it didn't really register. The whole Section 230
I think
thing.
This happened all on Monday. I think his tweet went out on Monday, didn't it not?
I thought this tweet...
Or no.
This tweet was yesterday.
Sorry, I have the wrong tweet picked up.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
The original tweet thread was basically Trump saying, "I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis. Total lack of leadership. Either the very weak radical left mayor, Jacob Frey, get his act together and bring the city under control, or I'll send in the National Guard and get the job done right." And then it was the next tweet. If you're looking at the screen, you can see it's unavailable on that thread because Twitter took it down. And then it was,
they fact-checked him on Monday.
That was, I think it was a different tweet.
Fact-checked him on. Well, that's what I mean. It was a different tweet. That's what sparked. He didn't like being fact-checked,
right?
Which started the executive order. Now, just a quick review of that because it may apply later. As of now, social media sites, Silicon Valley as a whole, but social media companies in general, are not held liable for what their posters, what their users post until they start editorializing. And there's been a big conversation about what is editorializing. But Trump went ahead and pulled the trigger, and that really is honestly, it might be the most disruptive, the most disruptive things he's done lately. Of course, other people will argue with me there, but with the amount of sway and hold that social media companies have on the world, changing a foundational way that they're legally regulated is a cataclysmically disruptive event. And it may not seem that way, especially when you compare it to, a lot of bigger things that people would like to, point out, whether they don't like his response to coronavirus or they don't like this or that about him. Honestly, his executive order about restructuring the ways that social media companies are, allowed or, regulated or non-regulated or whatever, that has the potential to be the biggest impacting thing on a global scale, really. I mean, once you start kicking around the social media companies, that's something big. The social media is responsible for whole uprisings and government overthrows in the Arab Spring and this and that. And to start pushing back on them is something that hasn't really been done. The classification of social media sites, happened back in the late Clinton era. And this is the first time that they're really getting a big pushback. And this, I don't know, if this comes about now, the final executive order has not been published that I've seen as of, before we started this show. So we'll see what's actually in it. But I don't know, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And part of the Section 230 is that they're considered to be a neutral platform. But clearly, if they're trying to sway opinions or trying to become arbiters of truth, then they're not being neutral. So, I mean, the executive order is supposed to just get them to back off, let people say what they want kind of thing. But at the same time, I've seen different sentiments on that. People saying that, hey, Twitter's still a private company. They can do whatever they want. Or,
which is an argument that doesn't mean anything.
Right. At this
tons
point,
of companies,
especially at this point.
But I mean, tons of companies are private companies and they can't do what they want. That's not what private company means.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's not, it's got to stay within the legal boundaries. And obviously when they're starting to do this, it's outside of that. And also that, I forgot my other point. It really wasn't that important. We should probably move on because we got a lot to get to.
Yeah.
The whole thing
a
here,
lot of people in, a lot of people in chat trying to convince me that Trump is not a racist. Look, I'm not saying anything regarding that. I'm just I'm backing away from this conversation.
The googly eyes are slowly sinking. Yes. I think the greater thing here is that the whole concept of social media to begin with was meant to be for social disruption. It was they had to have known the reason why the CIA got in the back rooms of Facebook early on and all that kind of stuff is because they knew that it would have the power to disrupt socially. So, maybe the Trump thing will do something. I don't know. It doesn't really, to me, I don't think it really matters. They're going to either keep doing what they're doing or, cause there's my first thought, I remember my point. My first thought when I saw that initial tweet about Trump and the executive order and how he wants to strongly regulate, I think that was the phrase he used, strongly regulate, was that is he, and again, this is just my first thought. I didn't read the draft of the executive order or anything like that. I thought, isn't it weird that he's trying to kind of, in a sense, uphold the First Amendment by in some ways violating it, but I don't know. Maybe that was a wrongful thought. I don't know. Because now that you're talking about it,
for your wrongful thought.
Well, because it's like if you're gonna be, I guess if you're a private corporate, whatever, it doesn't matter. They have the ability, so to speak, to do what they want in a sense, but to say what they want. But maybe they just need to be clear about it. Maybe they just say like, hey, we're all about. Twitter's all about progressive leftist New World Order stuff, and that's what we are, and they should just be more open about it instead of like pretending like they're neutral. I guess that's what bothers me about the whole thing is if you're going to be neutral, be neutral. Don't pretend. Neutral. Yeah, don't. If you're going to be leftist, whatever, then just be that, and then people can move on to something else.
That's the whole point. That's what Trump's saying. If you're going to editorialize, we're going to regulate you like an editorial company.
Right. Okay.
So we'll see what we'll see what the final thing comes out.
Yeah.
We'll go over it there.
We can all agree that the whole thing is just one giant psyop.
This was an NSA-style hybrid war. Psyops.
It's a hybrid war.
Yeah. Very good. You want to do a quick clip?
Yes.
Okay. This is heavy. Heavy.com. Now, we are chatting about this. Of course, the riots going on, things going nuts. And as we've seen in past riots, of course, there's always the infiltrators,
right.
And people have been pointing or have been looking for infiltrators, the instigators, the double agents going on over there in Minneapolis. And this is from Heavy.com. Jacob Peterson is not the AutoZone umbrella man, St. Paul police say. So here's the thing. If anybody needs an update, there was a man dressed in tactical gear and fresh respirator and some pretty heavy duty gear carrying an umbrella. Well, let's just actually the article will say it.
I'm playing the clip in the background, so because we don't need to hear the audio, so I'm just gonna have the clip playing while you read some of the article there.
A viral and incendiary social media accusation against a St. Paul, Minnesota police officer is false. Oh, okay. Well, no need to go into it. The police department said in a statement. Oh, the police department said, oh, well, let's look into it. The situation shows how quickly information can spread on social media, ricocheting around the web, especially in a fast-moving situation like the unrest in the Twin City. Heavy asked police how they know that the umbrella man is not Officer Jacob Peterson. They are not doing a good job telling people what the deal actually is. So there's a man with an umbrella who was kind of with the rioting group or the protesting group, and he basically lit a building on fire and instigated a riot. And then people on social media quickly matched up, what they could see of his face through the gas mask and the respirator and the shield he was wearing to a police officer in town. And the idea, of course, that the police officer is dressed up like a protester in order to incite more violence to justify crackdowns by the police. It's a classic strategy. We've seen it forever, and that gives the government the reason to use stronger force and to bring in reserves from the National Guard and institute some more heavy-handed tactics on protesters and rioters, things like that. So here we go. Heavy asked police how they know that the umbrella man is not Officer Jacob Peterson, and they said that the officer had an alibi that checked out for that day and time. Quote, "We spoke with his supervisor who was with him. We spoke to his colleagues who were with him," and said Steve Linders, public information officer for the St. Paul Police Department. Police say Peterson is being falsely accused of being the mysterious black-clad umbrella-carrying man involved in methodically breaking windows at an AutoZone during the protests/riots, which have broken out in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Here's a video of the umbrella man. Sorry. I don't know if he set it on fire, but he was destroying property.
He was breaking the windows at the AutoZone with a hammer.
Got it.
That was caught on tape.
It's what a fun time. Yeah. In a statement sent to Heavy, Linders wrote that the post accusing Peterson was a, quote, false social media post. The man isn't Peterson, he stated, although he didn't use Peterson's name. Weird. The police statement read, "We are aware of the social media post that erroneously identifies one of our officers as the person caught on video breaking windows in Minneapolis. We want to be perfectly clear about this. The person in the video is not our officer. Our officer has been working hard, serving his community, keeping people and property safe, and protecting the right to peacefully assemble. It's unfortunate that people would post and share this untrue information, adding more confusion to an already painful time in our community." Heavy asked police how they know as to the alibi. Linders told Heavy, quote, "We were able to verify where the officer was and who he was with. In fact, he was working as a St. Paul police officer protecting people and property." Heavy asked the police if Peterson will grant an interview, but they said no, repeating that he had an alibi. Oh, okay. Well, if you say so, police. Police also wrote on Twitter. Quote, "Rumor control. We are aware of the social media post that erroneously," okay, they're just reprinting every paragraph. How annoying is that? So yeah, there you go. According to the police, the policeman, this policeman's a good policeman, not a bad one.
In fact, he was on duty, conveniently.
On duty, yes,
Yeah.
and with many other people to
we
verify his alibi.
We brought a story a few weeks ago about the Rona and how they only need eyebrows and eyes to identify people with their facial recognition.
Yes,
and,
Apple updated their artificial intelligence, so you can unlock your phone using, while still wearing a mask. So all AI needs now is your eyes and eyebrows to know it's you.
And with the AI and all the machinery doing it, it's kind of a mimic of the human eye. I mean, we can look at something and think, hey, they look kind of the same. And if you look at the side-by-side comparison here, which I don't think Heavy published. Did they publish the side-by-side photo in the article? I don't think they did. Oh, they kind of did.
I saw it on the social media post. I mean, it looks like the guy.
It totally looks like the guy. He's got
very unique eye features.
Yeah, kind of sunken a little bit, thin eyebrows.
Unfortunately, not very flattering. Very sunken and dark and sort of brooding.
Yeah, but certainly... you'd need to see the rest of his face, I guess. But yeah, just on a glimpse and very pixelated, looks like the same guy. I don't know. It's not surprising. This kind of thing is expected if you're of the worldview that we're approaching this from.
Yeah, and it's not unheard of. And having the police station who, let's just take for a second, everybody put on your tinfoil hats, okay? If the government wanted a reason to justify heavy-handed force on protesters and rioters and whatever, they did it in China, they did it in Venezuela, they've of course done it in America. It's a common tactic. What you do is you put some police officers in plain clothes to up the ante. Get people to do stuff that justifies bringing in, serious force. Now, I'll push back against myself here. If protesters and rioters are already setting buildings on fire, why would you need to send in an undercover cop to smash some windows? Well, I don't know. Something to think about.
There's another clip. Sorry, you can finish your thought.
No.
But there was another clip that we won't play. I don't want to dig it up right now. But it was some guy that was in Minnesota in St. Paul, and some people said this guy was just on drugs. Other people said that he was being legit. Maybe he was both on drugs or in shock or something. And he was talking about how his motorcycle was stolen the night before, and how these guys, these really well put together guys, really fit. Really sharp looking dudes came and they were talking to him. They were trying to get him to set the stores on fire. And they were doing wheelies on their motorcycles and just really guys that knew what they were doing with some of the, just motorcycles and stuff, but very aggressive, very in shape. And the guy was, the guy that was on camera was saying,
gotta be cops if they're in shape.
Well, not just cops, but provocateurs. Hired provocateurs from wherever, trying to instigate a crowd of people that are already emotionally charged to actually start the violence. And if they don't do it, then, if they can't get anybody to do it, then they'll just do it themselves. So it doesn't really matter if nobody really, picks up the baton and starts smashing the windows, because they can just, dress up as Umbrella Man and do it themselves, I guess, if it's not going down to the level they want it to. But
those agent provocateurs, Gons.
Yeah.
And we've got the Merriam-Webster agent provocateur definition here. One employed to associate with suspected persons and by pretending sympathy with their aims to incite them to some incriminating action.
Yeah.
So pretty straightforward there.
Yeah.
You got a double agent.
And we've brought stories about the FBI doing this to people that have mental problems or have schizophrenia, and try to get them to commit, or at least agree to commit, to some kind of domestic terrorist act and arrest them for it. And, then they have footage of them saying, oh yeah, I'd love to blow up the banks because They're the ones that are evil or whatever it is, whatever they were convinced to do.
Right.
And this is like a tactic that is so just, I don't know, it's the same tactic over and over again. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if that police officer was part of this whole thing.
The police station already said it wasn't him. Why are you asking questions?
Because it seems like all the police in this whole Minnesota situation is, I don't know, part of the whole show, because they didn't show up to some of the fires. They like evacuated a whole area. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. 3 precincts now set on fire.
Yeah, they're just like, let it burn. Let it burn.
I know. Burning it all down, man. It's the American way.
Burn it all.
Burn it all.
All right, what do you got?
Okay, so this one, let's see. Man, I got my tabs all messed up today because there's so many different stories. I think I'm going to click this one, and yes, I got it. Okay. This was on MSN.com, but it was reporting on the CNN story. I woke up to this and I was kind of angry, actually, at how ridiculous this is. CNN correspondent Omar Jimenez has been arrested while covering Minneapolis protests live on air.
Yeah.
Live.
How convenient.
And, okay, let me just read the story. The CNN crew was arrested by police Friday morning while giving a live television report in Minneapolis, where the crew was covering ongoing protests over the death of George Floyd. And we haven't actually covered too much of most people probably know by now what the situation is.
Happened so long ago at this point.
It seems like so long ago. I guess it was Monday.
Yeah.
But just all the weird things about Floyd and the officer that allegedly killed him being coworkers, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. But the crew included correspondent Omar Jimenez were handcuffed and detained as Jimenez gave a live report on Minnesota Street shortly after 5 a.m. Police told the crew they were being detained because they were told to move and didn't. One member of the CNN crew relayed to the network, quote, "A CNN reporter and his production team are arrested this morning in Minneapolis." They just repeat it over and over and over again.
I know. I hate this thing where they report on tweets. They'll tell you what the tweet said.
You know what it
then
is.
Post the tweet and then tell you what the tweet told you that the tweet said. It's annoying.
It's neurolinguistic programming, man. It's the same thing as when they show the towers getting hit with the plane over and over and over.
Yeah.
They just need to repeat it so that, it's the whole listen. You got to hear it 8 times or whatever to believe it. A clear violation of the First Amendment rights. The authorities in Minnesota, including the governor, must release the 3 CNN employees immediately, CNN said in a statement. I like how CNN and Twitter are becoming these totalitarian platforms here. Officers approached the crew as they moved in to arrest a protester behind them. Jimenez could be seen holding his CNN badge while reporting, identifying himself as a reporter and telling the officers the crew would move wherever officer needed them to. An officer gripped his arm and Jimenez talked, then put him in handcuffs. "We can move back to where you like. We are live on air here. Put us back where you want us. We are getting out of your way. Wherever you want us, we'll get out of your way," Jimenez said before he was led away. "We were just getting out of your way when you were advancing through the intersection," Jimenez said. CNN's Josh Campbell, who also was in the area but not standing with the on-air crew, said he too was approached by police but was allowed to remain. "I identified myself. They said, okay, you're permitted to be in the area," recounted Campbell, who is white. "I was treated much differently than Jimenez was." Jimenez and the crew had been reporting from the site near City Police Department precinct that protesters had burned and officers had abandoned overnight. About a block away, a fire was burning at a different 4-story building that had contained restaurants. Over 100 state police officers in body armor and riot gear had arrived and lined up near the area where the CNN crew was, near the precinct building on East Lake Street. After the photographer was arrested, his camera was set on the ground. The photographer, I mean the cameraman? His camera was set on the ground and continued to transmit live images. And, I tweeted this out right away. I said, "I'm sorry for my skepticism." Not really, but I say that just to be gentle on Twitter. But this looked to me like the most staged event I might have ever seen on the news. This will divide the country even more, and it's all to garner a vote. Pretty disgusting all around, in my honest opinion. The reporter was later released. And the MSN article doesn't mention how he was released, like, a couple hours or something later. And
I mean, you watch the video, it just looks like it doesn't read real at all.
No.
I mean, he's being held by the arm and then just kind of continues to report. And then another cop comes up, kind of grabs his other arm and says something. And then he asks the cop what he said. The cop says, "You're under arrest." And he leans in and he leans the microphone in to the cop.
Yeah.
And
let me see if I get to the part here.
And then the cop, again, he's kind of leaning and he's kind of shy. You know, he was acting like a guy who was told to arrest a reporter live on air. And, you know, that's just what it reads. I don't know. Everybody can watch it themselves and see what they think. But the way that he says you're under arrest and then the reporter asks, he's like, "What?" And then leans the microphone towards him, and the cop leans into the microphone and says, "You're under arrest." And then it goes from there. It's the most whack thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like I can picture. And by the way, the backdrop of this whole thing is like the most apocalyptic thing you got the big, you know, I don't know what
burned out building.
Burned out building.
The frames. Yeah.
But you got all the police officers in their riot gear all like huddled up behind them. But then also the ones that are around the crew. And I mean, the whole thing, I'm just picturing Soros or something even higher up in the background in some room, you know, saying like, "Okay, arrest, make the move." And the other thing I pointed out, by the way, 21.7 million views of this clip. Just ridiculous. That's a lot of people watching it. And that's a lot of outrage, manufactured outrage. The one thing that I noticed was the cameraman. Obviously, there's a lot of like graffiti about Floyd and all this kind of stuff in the background, but the cameraman was focused in.
I can't breathe thing.
Yeah, it was focused in on all this graffiti that was on some of the concrete slabs that are being placed there, and one of them clearly was the "I can't breathe" thing, which was the whole. What was the guy's? It was a few years ago.
Yeah, it was one of the other cases, but it's also associated with this one. This is what Floyd was saying. Well,
I know, but I think he was saying it because of the whole. Somebody tweeted.
I think he was saying it because he couldn't breathe because he had a police officer's knee on his neck.
But there's
no, but it's been a widely used.
I'm trying to remember the name. Somebody in the chat's got to mention or can let us know, but I don't remember the name of the. Is it Eric Garner? Was that the one?
But there are many.
I know, but there was one that this whole line,
here.
"I can't breathe," became a whole thing, and that athletes wearing "I can't breathe" T-shirts and the whole deal. And I actually said back in 2014 how the whole "I can't breathe" thing was propaganda to try to instigate a race war, and that was 2014 that I tweeted that out. And of course, they've been trying to do this for years, and this is like the most intense version of it that I've ever seen. And of course, just in time for everybody coming outside from their lockdown, right? Now that everyone's, it's crazy how the week everything's supposed to open up. Let's just instigate a little racial tension right after Eric Gardner. Thank you, somebody in the chat there. Valley and Crowns on Periscope.
Well, and not to mention that the police officer who committed the crime had something like 8 or 12 prior abuse allegations, some of which, all of which he had never been, adequately disciplined for. Yeah. So, it's kind of a ticking time bomb.
But it's the other thing I wanted to point out was the whole Biden thing from I think it was either earlier this week or last week, talking about how if you don't vote for him, then you're not black during that some rapper or something. I can't remember all the details. People in the chat are probably better versed in some of this, but on the heels of that whole thing, and there was a lot of whole race war thing, and the staged, I'll say it, I'll say staged arrest of a black reporter. And CNN also tweeted out about how the other guy.
There's no doubt that the reporter engaged. They wanted it to happen because it says right in there, the cops are saying, we want you to move. We wanted you to move. We want you to move. We are coming. You didn't move. And then, you get arrested if you don't listen to the cops. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
All you got to do is watch it. I mean, like I said, when the cop says you're under arrest, the reporter says, what? And then the cop leans into the microphone and says you're under arrest. And then, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening live on the air.
Yeah. And
what a
CNN HQ, narrating the situation.
Statement.
Yeah. They're narrating the whole thing. And I don't know if it was Anderson Cooper or whoever it was there, chiming in and the cameraman doesn't know that the camera's the police don't know that the camera's still rolling, and just the whole dramatic, placing the camera on the ground, and the whole thing.
We got it. We know it.
It bothers me though. It just really frustrates me because it's just such
bothersome.
I woke up, I was very. So thank you everybody for allowing me to vent here on News Talk.
Yeah, you got it. What do you got? You got something else, or do you want to jump in and thank some people?
Let's take a break.
It was an NSA-style hybrid war, Psyops.
That's right. Speaking of PSYOPs, everybody, I want to thank everybody for watching today. We're just going to take a quick second. Don't go anywhere. We got some funny new Twitch follower names. I want to thank some people for following on Twitch. We are trying to hit some goals to help support ourselves here. And I'm just going to run right through here. Get your finger on the dinger there, Gons.
Okay.
We got Not My Will 1010.
Not my will.
That's right. Lynn 8. Maureen Believes.
Nice.
Desert Trance.
Ooh.
Obadon 45. Orange Triangle Pop. We got Intel Spider.
Like it.
We finally got one of our 4 horsemen of the Technocalypse here. Mark the Zucchini Zuckerberg now follows us.
The 4 horsemen of the Technocalypse. Anytime you see the 4 horsemen, it's something special.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mark the Zucchini Zuckerberg. I think we have almost have all 4 horsemen of the Technocalypse following us. That's very nice of them to do that and come into the chat and try to sell their RFID chips to our listeners. Let's see. We also got Ghost Realm 108.
Nice.
You remember that episode, Ghost Realm, that we did? Where the scientist was talking about the Ghost Realm? Okay.
Yeah, a while ago.
We got Cross and Crown.
Like it.
Reckless Roger.
Ooh.
The Gentleman Hair.
Nice.
And I think that's all we got for right now. And just so everybody knows, we are trying to get our partnership over on Twitch. It's got a lot of fun tools to make the show a ton of fun, especially if you're viewing live, as well as giving Gonz and I a few ways to support ourselves that isn't just begging for donations. So we appreciate that very much, everybody. We are a value for value model, which means we put out the show, and if you get any value out of the show, you get to put some value back in, if that's how you want to roll. But we'll be thanking some new supporters later on in the show.
I think we got a super chat, and it scrolled by, and I forgot the name there.
Yeah, we did. We got a super chat from Shahab over on YouTube. Thank you. Shahab.
She had a note too, right? Or maybe it's a
They say, I love you guys and thanks for all your work, my brothers in Christ. You're very welcome, and thank you very much for the support there. Very important. Now, remember, there's a lot of ways to support the show, not just all financial, but you can leave ratings and reviews. You can send episodes to your friends. You can create us some jingles for different topics that we cover on the show. And Michael sent in a jingle. Gons, do you have that jingle ready?
I do, and I was going to use it earlier when we were talking about Trump, but I forgot about it.
Nice.
I call it the super duper missile. Incredible.
The super duper missile.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Super duper missile. It's incredible. Thank you, Michael, for that. We'll certainly be tracking the super duper missile story as it develops. The missile that can move, what was it, like Mach 400 or something?
I don't know. Yeah,
17
times.
We'll see
the
if that
speed of
ever
light.
comes around. But if you're out there and you're a listener and you know your way around some sound editing software, pick something that we talk about in the show. A lot of times we request jingles, but if you want to add some value to the show and put together a little jingle for us, but do it and send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. You're technically a producer of the show when you do that, so you can tell your friends.
At least Trump just signs executive orders and doesn't want to super duper missile, Twitter or like Jack's house or something.
Yeah,
and then we know,
man.
I know you never
know.
That would be
We're
the
not
ultimate
there
troll.
yet, but who knows when we got enough super duper missiles at his behest. You'll have to take cover every once in a while.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more. Are you done with all the thanking? So we can move on.
I'm done with the thanking. Let's jump in. I want to talk about just one more thing, one or two more things about the riots, and then we'll move on to some other topics.
Sounds good.
We should have popped this one actually before the break.
I know,
but
we should have.
We'll follow up on it. Is a new piece of news actually on top of all this, and we're reading from NBC, so it's a psyop.
Oh, you know what? Yep, it is a psyop.
This was an NSA-style hybrid war psyops.
I had my finger on the trigger. No, I had my finger on the trigger, and I thought you were going to just move on, so I went to the browser, and then you decided to go there, and I hit the key,
good.
and it didn't work. And
Good. I'm glad we could do this live breakdown.
I know, hitting a lot of buttons. I know it doesn't look like I'm doing much, but trust me, there's a lot of buttons to press, and a lot of things to click.
Give the listeners a peek behind the curtain. Okay, here we go. NBCnews.com. Look at that. Ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek. Now, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Do you?
I've heard Chauvin. I've heard Chauvin. I don't know. Does it matter?
Sure, I was saying
Stage
Chauvin.
name?
I'll say
Chauvin?
Chauvin
Okay.
now.
Show business.
Ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin charged with the murder in George Floyd case. So here we go. The former Minneapolis police officer. Look at that. A day or two after he's now
demoted.
called the former. The former Minneapolis police officer shown on video putting his knee on George Floyd's neck for more than 8.5 minutes as he pleaded for air and his mother was arrested Friday and charged with murder, authorities said. Derek Chauvin, who was fired on Tuesday along with 3 other officers involved in the arrest of Floyd, was taken into custody Friday and faces charges of third-degree murder and manslaughter, Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman announced. Passersby took video. Okay, and we know the rest of the story. Basically, the news is he got arrested. And, this is an interesting thing to happen because that does not happen very often in these situations. And especially when protests and riots are involved, very rarely. It's kind of the we don't negotiate with terrorists attitude when governments respond to protests and things. If you haven't noticed, most of the time, protests and riots don't actually get many things done.
No.
But it seems after 3 days of protests and rioting, they threw in the towel and they arrested the guy. They figured that he wasn't worth, burning down the entire city for. So they finally arrested him, and that will be very interesting to see how that happens. Now, of course, at the news of Derek Chauvin getting arrested, there were calls and pleas out from the activists involved in this that's not enough. There were 3 other officers all involved who just kind of stood idly by instead of Derek in spite of Derek Chauvin being the one with his knee on the neck. They want to get all those guys. So that's interesting. I have not seen anything. I'm kind of skimming this article so we don't have to reiterate, Oh my gosh, it's a long article. Yeah, they just crammed in like 30 articles into this one article. So yeah.
Are you on the NBC?
The guy's arrested.
Are you on the NBC News article? Because the one I was looking at was, I guess it is longer. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much summarized everything there. There was some footage.
Guy's arrested.
The actual footage of the basically the murder, if you want to call it that. There was some interesting stuff. People were pointing out how, first off, people looked up Derek Chauvin, found his address. He had multiple addresses that were connected with the number 33 and also 17. And, those are patterns that we often see with the symbolism going on anytime there's a situation like this. And also the other officer that's standing there next to him, kind of blocking the way, was an email address that was associated with this guy, Derek Chauvin's. So there's some weird stuff going on all around. And in the video itself, the people were pointing out how the medics that came and took the body of George Floyd didn't look right. And because they were saying they didn't cause or they didn't follow any of the standard procedures of what they normally do in terms of, taking the pulse or trying to revive the guy right on the spot. It was more like, touch his head. Okay, yeah, roll him onto the stretcher here. Let's throw him into the back of the van. And there was a lot of EMTs commenting like, yeah, that's not normally what we do there. So again, a lot of questions to be asked with the whole situation. And did see some couple super chats come in.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Coach Izzy.
Yes,
thanks.
Coach Izzy.
They say, sup, Gons and Basil, love you guys, peace. And one from Angel Martin over on YouTube. Chauvin, as in chauvinism, which means supremacism. What are the odds? Clearly a fake name. Yeah, quite possibpossibly.
Fake name, or at the very least chosen to be the representatives of the instigation of race war. And this was one little thing that I forgot to do in the last section, that segment or whatever, that I wanted to play for everybody. This is Van Jones on CNN. Apparently, Basil, if you are a descendant of the Europes or the Nordics, you have a virus.
There's another reality here that you're starting to see. So even the most liberal, well-intentioned white person has a virus in his or her brain that can be activated at an instant. And so what you're seeing now is a curtain falling away. Look in the mirror at how you choke off Black opportunity, how you choke off Black dignity, how you behave. People are now fed up. People are telling me they're tired of hashtags. It's not the racist white person who's in the Ku Klux Klan that we have to worry about. And James Baldwin said it best. White people in these situations are always innocent. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Teach me, educate me, help me understand. How did this happen? Talk to me, tell me something, tell me what to do. White people are always innocent, and their innocence constitutes their crime. It is too late to be innocent.
You're not innocent.
I knew it. I knew I wasn't innocent.
You're criminal because of the color of your skin. Man.
Yeah, what exactly was he saying there? Just that I have a virus.
You have a virus because
that makes me racist?
Yes. Just the mere fact that you are not.
That's not, I don't know, man. I've been wearing my mask. I wash my hands. I stay socially distant and still got the virus. I'm not very happy about that.
This is yeah. Interesting how he would use the word virus amidst all of this to just, fear on top of fear. It's kind of like a multiple layered thing now with, be afraid of the Rona, but also the racist Rona.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me very much.
No.
Let's speaking of the Rona, Gons, let's jump
into the virus.
Let's jump into some monkey business. I want to tell you about the monkeys. All right, this is coming from Sky News.sky.com. News.sky.com. Article reads coronavirus, monkeys escape with COVID-19 samples after attacking a lab assistant.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. It's happening.
What is happening?
This is
going
just
down.
what we need. They're preparing the
Planet of the Apes was a documentary.
Yes, exactly. The Rise of the Planet of the Apes here. Here we go. The article reads, a gang of monkeys attacked a laboratory assistant and escaped with a batch of coronavirus blood test samples. It has been reported. The bizarre incident saw the troop of primates launch their assault near Meerut Medical College in Delhi, India. According to local media, the animals then snatched COVID-19 blood test samples that had been taken from 3 patients and fled. One of the monkeys was later spotted in a tree chewing one of the sample collection kits.
Oh no.
The Times of India reported, adding that test samples from the patients had to be taken again. The undamaged kits were later recovered. The Meerut Medical College Superintendent Diraj Raj told AFP. He added, quote, they were still intact and we don't think there's any risk of contamination or spread. That's what they want you to think, Superintendent. It is the latest example of the highly intelligent, red-faced rhesus macaques taking advantage of India's nationwide lockdown to combat the spread of coronavirus. We reported on the monkeys taking over the streets in India a few weeks ago, and now seems the monkeys are trying to do their own research on coronavirus. And there you go, man. I'm telling you, the monkeys, they're going to get us one of these days.
There's a lot of brain-computer interface experiments that have been done with the monkeys. And, you know, at a certain point, they're going to, 1, rebel, but also 2, maybe utilize the AI neural lace brain connection to the machine and take over. And maybe there's some communication going on in the monkey kingdom.
Wow, you're really bringing this. Yeah, I think you're right. You know what, Gons? It's scary for us to to throw ideas like this around because, you know, as we've liked to say quite a bit recently, because it's crazy. Some of the craziest theories that you and I have had over the 8 years that we've been podcasting are coming true. So I want to be very careful. About predicting the monkeys taking over, because
I wouldn't be surprised.
Would not surprise me.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it wouldn't be surprising because, you know, it jives. There's a big theme of eugenics here going on. Speaking of the race war and everything, eugenics is sort of the underlying issue here, and we'll get to another story that's concerning that a little bit later. But it's based on this faulty idea of the theory of evolution and how we evolved from apes. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if, as a proof that we can evolve into even more spectacular human 2.0 species or whatever, that they bring monkeys to the level of humans with some kind of transhuman upgrade or something and say, see, we took control of human evolution, and these monkeys have evolved to human status of intellect. And so, therefore, we must, you know, stay ahead of the curve and enhance ourselves, or else be left behind with the advanced monkeys. That's true,
man. The only way to defeat the monkeys is to get the cyborg implants. Yeah. I've played that game.
Yeah, the Elon cyborg connected. We're all connected.
We got to get our neural
already sort of cyber neural nets are taking over from regular programming. So you are connected.
Yeah, so you're connected to the monkeys and to the machine.
I saw a clip of what's that guy's name? Shoot, how can I forget his name? Jay Leno. Oh yeah, notorious car-loving man. Yeah. He did a clip with Elon Musk and drove around a Cybertruck and drove the Cybertruck through the boring tunnel, and it was really awkward, man. I think Jay Leno was just doing it for the paycheck, because usually, you know, he's notoriously a gearhead, and he's driving this truck around, and he's just like, "Oh, so I like all the windows. There's a lot of windows in here."
Was Elon in the car with him?
Yeah, Elon was in the car with him.
Nice.
And
So I gotta
he
check
really
that out.
said nothing of value about the
Substance.
Cybertruck, except for it's got big windows, and Elon says he plans to make everything 5% smaller in the truck. So there you go, your hard-hitting Cybertruck news. I do want to give a little update here, Gons. We are number 7 on the Twitch talk shows and podcasts list right now.
Nice.
So that's nice. We made it up to 5 last show, but right now we're sitting at 7. So anybody over there at YouTube or Facebook or wherever, head over to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Let's try to go up. Let's try to make it to number 1, baby. We made it to number 2 once. But we're down at 7 right now. We need to get some more viewers over there on the Twitch. Okay, let's go. You want to talk more COVID?
Let's do one more. I think I got a couple more Rona stories.
Got a couple more.
COVID.
This is from AJNtimesofisrael.com. That's Australian Jewish News. Israel invents 1-minute coronavirus breath test. And it says here, an Israeli-designed 1-minute breath test to tell whether someone could soon be installed at hundreds of global entry points if it gets approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The clever contraption, which uses frequency to detect the deadly SARS-CoV-2, was designed by a team based at an Israeli university and has a success rate of more than 90% in trials to date. Current tests of the new coronavirus use throat or nose swabs and look for particles, but the team led by Professor Gabi Sarusi at Ben Gurion University of the Negev thought outside the box in terms of detection. Quote, "We asked ourselves, since the virus is just like a nanoparticle or a quantum dot," oh my gosh, with a diameter between 100 nanometers and 140 nanometers in terms of its size and electrical properties, which definitely it can get through any kind of mask that you're wearing. That was my little extra addition there. Can we detect it using methods from the worlds of physics, photonics, and electrical engineering? We discovered that the answer is yes. This virus resonates in the THZ frequency, and spectroscopy in these frequencies reveals it promptly. Sarusi's team has been working with Israel's defense ministry to validate the handheld device, which contains a chip with densely packed sensors to capture tiny particles from the breath, including any viruses. The chip is then read through a THZ spectroscopy, which takes about 20 seconds. Scientists look for the telltale changes in resonance in the THZ spectral range caused by the coronavirus. Within a minute, they can tell if someone is carrying the virus, even though they may be completely without symptoms. Sarusi said the idea was for these breathalyzers to be installed throughout the country at places such as ports, workplaces, and cruise ships, with each device processing breath from about 4,000 people every day. The next steps are to conclude the validation process, then get Food and Drug Administration approval, for which there is a COVID-19 fast-tracking system in place, meaning that the tests could be seen in public as soon as September. And, I guess this is better than being vaccinated. If it's a choice between a breathalyzer and the Bill Gates plan of what was it? I can't find the jingle about. Oh, here it is.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein.
Yeah. So if it was a choice between these genetically modified things being shot right into our veins and a breathalyzer test, I'd much rather go with the breathalyzer test. Although, what if it's pre-programmed to call, suspicious people to have the Rona, even though they don't?
Yeah, well, exactly. And, let me say, you're right. I would rather take a breathalyzer test than, a lot of the other, even more than the nasal swab or the this or the that. And of course, the vaccine, not a huge fan of that. And I mentioned a few weeks ago, I went to the doctor for an unrelated thing, just unrelated to Corona, just doing, my doctor was open and nobody was making appointments. So I called my doctor to see when I could get a checkup. And she's like, I'm free all week, man, whenever you want to come in.
Nice.
Like, okay. So I go in and she offers me the antibody test. And in the past I had said I was excited to get the antibody test. I think I may have had coronavirus in January. I missed a couple of shows because of it. I was very sick mid-February. I had a very intense illness of some kind. And my doctor offered me a little slip to get my antibody test. And I was like, okay, give me the antibody test. Let me see if I got this. But then the articles started coming out that the antibody tests were not very effective and that, at least 50% of the antibody tests could be false positives, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have this article. And one thing we like to do on this show is kind of scope the attitudes and the leanings of different news organizations and how that kind of transforms over time. Longtime listeners, you'll know my thoughts about Yahoo sort of making a lean from the left towards the middle.
Well, in particular with one story. I think they snapped back with the whole Trump thing recently, but go ahead.
Well, either way, there's a lot of conservative people that have problems with Trump too, but I mean more in the way that they do their job.
Right.
And we've got one here from NPR.org. And this is a classic, hard, far left leaning institution. And let's see what they got to say about COVID-19 antibody tests. Hit me with that COVID jingle, baby.
Oh, you want the jingle again?
COVID.
The article is entitled Antibody Tests Point to Lower Death Rate for the Coronavirus Than First Thought. And of course, there is a lot of back and forth, a lot of spite and despising between the left and the right, and all surrounded around the actual death rate. A lot of people thinking, the death rate's about the same as the flu. Other people saying, it's 20 times more than the flu. We heard this for
100,000 dead.
Weeks and weeks and weeks. We heard it's 20 times more deadly than the flu. And here we go. The article reads, mounting evidence suggests, remember, this is NPR. Mounting evidence suggests the coronavirus is more common and less deadly than it first appeared. The evidence comes from tests that detect antibodies to the coronavirus in a person's blood rather than the virus itself. The tests are finding large numbers of people in the U.S. who were infected but never became seriously ill. And when these mild infections are included in the coronavirus statistics, the virus appears less dangerous.
NPR? What happened?
NPR. I know, man. Quote, the current best estimates for the infection fatality risks are between 0.5 and 1%. That's down from, at some point, I think it sort of plateaued at its 3.5% fatality rate. That was somewhere, maybe mid-March.
They're saying 5 in the next paragraph.
It certainly went higher and certainly been lower, but I think sort of the average understanding was around 3.5%. But now the current best estimates for the infection fatality risk are between 0.5 and 1%, says Caitlin Rivers, an epidemiologist at Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Johns Hopkins being a very famous hospital and CIA affiliated. That's in contrast with with death rates of 5% or more based on calculations that included only people who got sick enough to be diagnosed with tests that detect the presence of the virus in a person's body. And the revised estimates support an early prediction by Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and a leading member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. In an editorial published in late March, the New England Journal of Medicine, Fauci and colleagues wrote that the case fatality rate for COVID-19 may be considerably less than 1%. Interesting. Now, especially when it comes to masks and a lot of things, if you actually listen to what Fauci says a lot of the times, he plays everything down quite a bit. But the media, they almost don't care what Fauci says. They want to keep saying his name and they want to keep showing his picture. But a lot of times they ignore the facts that he says, and one of them being the death rate. But even a virus with a fatality rate less than 1% presents a formidable threat, Rivers says, quote, that is many times more deadly than the seasonal flu. Not that many times more deadly than the seasonal flu, but okay. The new evidence is coming from places such as Indiana, which completed the first phase of a massive testing effort in early May. Indiana's program began soon after coronavirus cases began appearing in the state. The governor's office contacted Nir Menachemi, who chairs the Health Policy and Management Department at Indiana University's Richard M. Fairbanks School of Public Health. The governor wanted basic information such as how many people had been infected and how many people would die. At the time, quote, it was really difficult to know for sure, Menachemi says, and frankly, not just in our state, but in any state. That was because health officials only knew about people who had been sick enough to get tested for the virus, and that the number can be misleading. Quote, it doesn't capture the vast number of people out there who might be infected but not seeking medical care. So, starting in late April, Menachemi, working with the Indiana State Department of Health, led a study of more than 4,600 people statewide. Most were selected at random. Interesting. Most were selected at random. Just gotta, do some cherry picking to make sure you got so to make sure you only skew some of your statistics. Yeah. Not enough to gain any suspicion. Participants got 2 tests, blah, blah, blah. They're going to just kind of tell us about how they did a bunch of testing. But long story short, you got NPR here, a bastion of, liberal news, talking about how low the death rate for coronavirus is, which does not come as a surprise to us, huh?
Well, at a certain point, when people aren't dying and hospitals and nurses are being laid off, your normal normies, as you like to call them, would probably get a little bit suspicious with all the hype, especially now. There's so many people that are, you're probably hearing a lot more about the doctors that were censored and whatever, unless you're really in just like a, left-leaning Twitter bubble or something. You probably have people in your life at this point, especially in America, that are questioning the official narrative. So I think they're trying to keep their audience to a certain degree, because at a certain point you can't
that's
just
what you do.
Yeah, you gotta appeal to the masses in some way to keep the advertising money coming in. So
once people start looking at the numbers themselves, you start with a blast off number and then you taper it down as time goes on. So you start sensational and then you can work yourself towards the truth, but you want people reactionary when they first get the news. So that's the thing. I do think it's speaking of, well, anyways, that's for another part of the show. But there you go. Official NPR report. We're at 0.5% fatality for coronavirus.
Okay. So on with the race war, because people are going back outside.
Well, I know. It's crazy, man. First there was coronavirus, then the murder hornets, and now we got to set all of Minneapolis on fire.
Now if you're white, you have a virus.
Yes, well, we've always known that. Us white people are crazy, man.
You're not. You may not have the Rona, but you have the racist.
We got very good. Corona racist.
Corona racist.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to thank some people?
We got a couple more stories, but before we do, yes, let's thank some people, and then we got some interesting,
Don't
very
go anywhere.
Stories.
We've got some very interesting. We're going to be talking about some Epstein and transhumanism combined. What? And then some very interesting studies going on with cannabis and the Bible and some rabbinical stuff. It's going to be very interesting. So stick around. But first, we want to thank some supporters of the show. Just so everybody knows, just to reiterate, we do not believe in selling your attention to corporations for our own personal gain. The show is free, and usually that means that you are the product, but we are doing our best to keep our conscience clean as far as that's concerned, because you know what? We're getting demonetized all over the place. We've said no to many big advertisers now that want us to sell them your trust, dear listeners, but so far, so good. We have some very generous listeners, and we go by the value for value model. And it's very simple. We put out the show, and if you get any value out of what we put out, then it's you have the opportunity to put value in. One way of doing that is by donating to the show at patreon.com/CCNT. And let's thank some people. So since last show, we have one new supporter. Actually, no, we have one upgrading supporter over on the Canary Cry News Talk Patreon account, patreon.com/CCNT. And I want to give a big old thank you to Aaron B.
Aaron B. Thank you.
Aaron B., thank you very much. As I always like to say, it's hard already to get new people to support the show. It's even harder to get people to upgrade their current pledge. And thank you, Aaron B., so much for upping your pledge. That's makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yes, and we've spread out a whole bunch of different Patreons here, but we do have one for Canary Cry Radio. And definitely wanted to thank those people who have become supporters on the Canary Cry Radio Patreon. That's patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. We have Syrian Soper. Thank you, Syrian Soper, for becoming a supporter. We got a big pledge from Ghost Realm 108.
Ghost Realm. Oh, a new Twitch. They followed on Twitch and supported the show. Thanks, yeah, Ghost Realm.
There you go. We also got a support from Jamie. Thank you, Jamie.
Jamie.
And also from Ernesto. And one from Corwin. Thank you, Corwin.
Corwin. Oh, it's Corwin.
Yeah, I see Corwin in the chat. And this is the beauty of doing live stream is we can kind of we can kind of report on things that are happening right now. And apparently, according to Corwin, CNN headquarters logo defaced as protesters gather.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Atlanta. Their headquarters in Atlanta.
Huh.
I just pulled this up. Atlanta, people are taking over in front of the entrance of CNN's headquarters. A protester getting cheers from the crowd was seen with a Black Lives Matter flag on top of the news outlet's logo, which was defaced with writing that included the word love. Okay. Massive amounts of people have gathered in front of CNN's headquarters in Atlanta. Activists spray painted the logo, breaking a window and tagging doors while protesting the death of George Floyd. The Minneapolis officer who blah, blah, blah. We know about that. Anything else here? Okay, there's a tweet here from Fernando Alfonso. Protesters getting dispersed by police as the destruction if police cars outside the CNN centers continue. I think there was a little typo there, but certainly looks like a little civil unrest. But you know what?
Is it related to the reporter getting fake arrested?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. But
okay. Well, I do want to say Aaron B., who is the one who upgraded their support, is Incarnate Unlimited in the chat.
Oh,
who's been pretty much at every show for the past at least few weeks. So thanks, Incarnate Unlimited.
Yeah.
You are the man.
I'm hoping
Aaron.
Just based on this little story with the CNN headquarters, I'm hoping it's not that they that there's like a counter protest from people that saw the whole arrest and thought that it was all fake and now it's time to really tear down CNN.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I wonder if they're protesting CNN because of the fake reporter arrest.
That would be pretty funny.
Would be interesting. I mean, if there's any reason, lying to the country is a good reason to.
Good point from 2 Cardinals and a pack of Marlboro Reds on YouTube. CNN and BBC are both Tavistock programs. If you want to do a little Google search, definitely check out the Tavistock Institute and their hand in a lot of this propaganda mechanism or apparatus. Yeah.
Check it out.
Yes.
Okay, so we're thanking people, Gon, so I'll let you pull up the if there's any more new PayPal supporters while I cruise over to the Twitch. I think we've got a couple more Twitch followers to thank, I think. Let me go see here. Yes, we've got Mr. Chucky63. Thanks, Mr. Chucky63, for following. We've got the mask is the way. The mask is the way. Welcome to the show. We've got Canary Screamer. I've seen Canary Screamer has been in chat all day. Glad. Thanks for following. And I think those are the new ones. All right. So thank you very much. And I'm not sure why you're not popping up on the new list, Mary Moore, but I see Mary Moore the Red is following us as well.
Yeah, he's got. I think he's been censored on Twitter and stuff. Something going on.
Oh yeah, he's good at getting his stuff demonetized and taken down. So glad you made it, Mary Moore. Okay, there you go. What do you got? Any more supporters to thank?
Nobody new on the PayPals, but
okay.
I think we made effort with the Patreon.
Well, thank you guys very much. Like I said, we are your essential employees. We got nothing else going on. So if you like the show, it's up to you to put some value back into it. We do this 3 times a week. We'll doing our best, at least, to do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Write this down, folks, because I get people asking me all the time. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, sometime between noon and 5 is when we go live every week. So make sure to tune in next time. Next show will be on Monday. And if you want to help out the show, you can go to patreon.com/CCNT. But if you don't like Patreon, that's okay. You can head over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. You can head over to canarycryradio.com/support. We've got PayPal subscriptions. We got one-time donations if commitment's not your thing. There's also cryptocurrency and all sorts of fun ways to support the show over there. And like I said before, if you know your way around some sound editing software, you can always help out by making us some jingles. Even if you're doing whole songs, we had that guy who put together the Rattle the Cage song that we play at the end of the show. Yeah. Coolest thing ever. If you're out there, you're a creative person, want to make something for us to play on the show or at the end of the show, just send it on over to canarycryradio@gmail.com, canarycryradio@gmail.com. And if you're looking for other ways to support the show, make sure to leave a rating and a review and things like that. And we'll talk more about that after we hit a couple more stories. What do you say, Gons?
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Pulled out an old one. The Epstein didn't kill himself jingle.
I know. Remember those days? Such innocent times.
I know. Just every week goes by. We're like, oh, last week was much less stressful than it is this week.
Such a nice time.
Digitalspy.com, Jeffrey Epstein, filthy rich, the disturbing detail that was not included in the documentary. So I guess there was a documentary out called Filthy Rich about Jeffrey Epstein. I had heard about it a little bit, but didn't know too much. Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich is a 4-part Netflix docuseries which lifts the lid on the titular billionaire financier and pedophile who is now deceased, allegedly. It was ruled in 2019 that he took his own life in a Manhattan jail cell, but some, including Epstein's brother Mark, believe that he was murdered. Mark hired a renowned forensics expert to take another look at the autopsy, and he too was extremely skeptical about Epstein's cause of death. Those who are well acquainted with the harrowing tale of Epstein and his former girlfriend and associates Ghislaine Maxwell, who has also been accused of both procuring girls for him and abusing a number herself, allegations which she has repeatedly denied, will know much of what happens across the episode. We hear from several survivors, including Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who claims that she was trafficked to London by Epstein in 2001 when she was 17 years old and pressured into having sex with the Duke of York. Prince Andrew has repeatedly denied all allegations leveled against him. Filthy Rich briefly touches upon the backstories of both Epstein and Maxwell, as well as exploring their respective personalities. We learn of the, quote, molestation pyramid scheme and the numerous authority figures who failed the abused. From the disturbing art in Epstein's home to the surveillance system he had installed in his New York residence for his own voyeuristic entertainment and alleged blackmail purposes rather than security, there's a lot to take in, but one extremely sinister detail isn't touched upon. It was reported by the New York Times last year that Epstein, quote, hoped to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women at his ranch in New Mexico. Annie Farmer, a survivor who features in the series, claimed that she was sexually abused by Epstein and Maxwell at the property. Epstein was reportedly fascinated by transhumanism, which is the belief that the future of humanity will require the human body to be artificially enhanced or improved using technologies such as genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. It has been compared to eugenics, which supports selective, controlled breeding to weed out any unwanted traits or characteristics in a bid to improve the human race. The report mentions that Epstein had spoken to scientists and business individuals over the years about his plan, but there's, quote, no evidence that it ever came to fruition. He would regularly rub shoulders with scientists and academics at dinners and gatherings that he himself hosted or attended, as well as regularly donating sizable funds to various causes. A charity set up by Epstein donated $20,000 to the World Transhumanist Association in 2011, which now goes by Humanity Plus. Basil, we've been covering Humanity Plus since the beginning.
Yeah.
Quote, an organization that advocates the ethical use of technologies such as artificial intelligence to expand human capacities. That figure reportedly grew to $120,000, which is not that much money, at least publicly. When the news broke last year, former Republican presidential candidate and founder of the Transhumanist Party, Zoltan Istvan, said via Telegraph, quote, this is the largest media coverage we have ever experienced. But this is the worst type of coverage. Lots of damage control is being done right now.
Seriously.
Yeah, seriously. You want transhumanism to go mainstream, and it's on the shoulders of Epstein. Jaron Lanier, a computer scientist who is described as, quote, the founding father of virtual reality, told the New York Times that he spoke to a NASA scientist at a dinner party at Epstein's New York mansion. The individual claimed that Epstein wanted to have, quote, 20 women at a time impregnated at his ranch. What is wrong with this dude? It was an idea supposedly based on the repository of germinal choice, a sperm bank set up by U.S. billionaire Robert Clark Graham in an underground bunker on his ranch near San Diego in the late 1970s. He wanted to save the human race by spreading the seed of noble laureates and other intelligent individuals. Epstein's lawyers did not respond to the publication's request for comment. So, we've known about this, but interesting how Netflix would purposefully omit a very important part of the Epstein saga, if you will, which is his interest in transhumanism. And I see Titus Frost in there on DLive. Epstein paid for Sophia the robot. And Titus Frost has been tracking a lot of the Epstein stuff and his eugenics, transhumanist shenanigans as well. So definitely check out his channel for all that. But there you go. Netflix documentary. If anyone, it brings up the conversation about, oh, I saw the Epstein Netflix thing and oh, he's such a creepy dude. Well, they left out some of the creepiest parts of his whole deal.
And that's why you listen to Canary Cry News Talk, everybody, because we were talking about his weird little baby ranch back in the day. Which, and so of course YouTube left it out. They don't need to. They're there to censor themselves because, of course, I think their stock price is insane right now. So they are owned and operated by the people like Epstein. So of course they don't want people knowing about the crazy baby ranch.
Yeah, the baby ranch and the robot future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Netflix being that's interesting too, because they have so much of that transhumanist propaganda and so many other shows.
Oh yeah, they're
maybe that makes sense that they would not want to do that because because they're almost the bastion of that propaganda right now. So why would they associate the two together when obviously they're part of the whole agenda there? So makes
Speaking of which, I watched some more episodes of Upload last night.
Oh yeah,
of course, getting ready for the show. Mm-hmm. Part of my research. Upload is a show on Amazon Prime that deals with uploading consciousnesses, a topic that we have been covering for 8 years now, and I'm still waiting for my royalty check from Amazon Prime. And just a fun little detail. I don't want to do any spoiler alerts because it's a really fun show to watch. I don't understand how anybody who's not a Canary Cry listener enjoys it. But if you're a Canary Cry person or Canarians in the house, you'll enjoy watching the show because it's basically you already know about everything and where everything's going as you watch the show. It's about uploading consciousnesses to create a man-made afterlife, then hopefully being able to return the consciousnesses to some sort of cloned or printed body. That's all wrapped up in there. But the most entertaining thing about the show for me, the funniest little thing for me, was they have one of the Choke brothers who has been uploaded into the super fancy afterlife, the rich people's afterlife, being a play on the Koch brother who died. Mm-hmm. Who was it? Was it David? Is David the one who died? I don't know. One of the Koch brothers died. And in this upload world, he got uploaded into virtual heaven. And he makes a few appearances and actually interacts with the main character. So I found that extremely entertaining. And I'm not getting paid by Upload for any reason, and I'm upset about it.
Okay.
But I do want to give a shout out to Javella Stoic 77, a new follower on Twitch. And they say, I draw as I listen. Can I send you guys the art illustrations I make as I listen to the podcasts?
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Of the subjects, what is the official email? And that's awesome. Of course, any artists out there, we do talk a lot about jingles and stuff like that, but I would love to get a bunch of art into the email as well. And so if you are an artist or a creative person, send any and all Canary Cry themed art to canarycryradio@gmail.com. That's canarycryradio@gmail.com. So thank you very much. Let's do that. Let's get it going.
Yep.
Okay, Gons, I got something for you. Are you ready to talk about weed?
I don't know why. We don't have anything to address the shofar, the closest thing to the story.
Yeah, that's actually a very apt sound effect. This is from ScienceDaily.com, and the article is titled, New Research Reveals Cannabis and Frankincense at the Judahite Shrine of Biblical Arad. Interesting. Analysis of the material on 2 Iron Age altars discovered at the entrance to the Holy of Holies of a shrine at Tel Arad in the Beersheba Valley, Israel, were found to contain cannabis and frankincense, according to new article in the journal Tel Aviv. Past excavations revealed 2 superimposed fortresses dated to the 9th to early 6th centuries BCE, which guarded the southern border of biblical Judah. Highly important Iron Age finds were unearthed, including a well-preserved shrine that was dated to ca 750 through 715 BCE, 2 limestone altars. The smaller altar is 40 centimeters high and about 20 by 20 centimeters at the top. The larger is about 50 centimeters high and 30 by 30 centimeters at the top, were found lying at the entrance to the Holy of Holies of the shrine. Evidently, they had played an important role in the cult practices of the shrine. An unidentified black solidified organic material was preserved on the altar's surfaces. Past analysis of these materials failed to identify their content, and this dark material was recently submitted to organic residue analysis by modern methods. The study reveals that on the smaller altar, cannabis had been mixed with animal dung to facilitate heating, while the larger altar contained traces of frankincense that was mixed with animal fat to promote evaporation. These unique findings shed new light on cult practices in biblical Judah, suggesting cannabis was used here as a deliberate psychoactive to stimulate ecstasy as a part of cultic ceremonies. Lead author Aaron Airy from the Israel Museum in Jerusalem commented, quote, "This is the first time that cannabis has been identified in the ancient Near East. Its use in the shrine must have played a central role in the cultic rituals performed there. Frankincense comes from Arabia, therefore the presence of frankincense at Arad indicates the participation of Judah in the South Arabian trade even before the patronage and encouragement of the Assyrian Empire. Arad provides the earliest evidence for frankincense in a clear cultic context. Frankincense is mentioned as a component of the incense that was burned in the Temple of Jerusalem for its pleasant aroma. The fortress mound of Tel Arad in Beersheba Valley in southern Israel was excavated over 50 years ago under the direction of the late Tau professor Yohanan Aharoni. There you go, Gons. Cannabis being used on the shrines in Judah.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting use of the word cult there.
Yeah.
Are they obviously being Science Daily and a secular institution, are they using cult in the sense of instead of using the term religious, like in the let's look it up. Well, I don't have a keyboard. You should look up see what definitions of cult exist there. Do you think this was a Judeo practice?
Well, it could have been. But one of the things that I noticed right away was the mixture of cannabis and what was it, animal dung?
Animal dung.
And biblically, there isn't explicitly any kind of direction to mix cannabis with animal dung for any type of ritual.
Yeah.
However, there is some stuff that it's kind of interesting. I wanted to share some of that with you and see what you thought about it. And this is stuff that I know people have researched in the past. But one of the word, and I have to ask Michael Heiser about this because I've been meaning to see what his thoughts are on this. But there's a passage in Exodus 30, the anointing oil, verse 22 and 23.
The kana or whatever.
Yeah, the word Cain. It's translated Cain in the English. And I'm just going to go to the, for a lack of a better resource, I'm going to go ahead and go to this Wikipedia page that has a whole outline on the etymology of the word cannabis. And there's a whole segment there on Semitic etymologies. And it says here, Semitic etymologist Sula Bennett of the Institute of Anthropological Sciences in Warsaw had indicated the origin to be the Hebrew word konabos or kanobos. Kanabosum. Bennett, also known as Sarah Benetoa, is quoted saying the astonishing resemblance between Semitic kanbos and the Scythian cannabis leads me to suppose that the Scythian word was of Semitic origin. These etymological discussions run parallel to arguments drawn from history. The Iranian Scythians were probably related to the Medes, who were neighbors of the Semites and could easily have assimilated the word for hemp. The Semites could also have spread the word during their migration through Asia Minor. This is Bennett in the Book of Grass. And it says here the word Ganzigunu is referenced from stone tablets dating 700 BCE, which is right around that time the temple there, or the little shrine there, was dated, that indicate a connection with Eastern and Near Eastern terms for the plant. Ganzi, ganja, ganu to kane, or I guess kane for cannabis. This substance was used for witchcraft and prescribed as a useful remedy for a variety of ailments, including depression and impotence. So Hebrew cannabis from kane bosem may derive from Sumerian kunibu, though the final S does not seem to be present in Akkadian or Sumerian forms. Leading authorities of the etymology on both the German and Russian language list a Sumerian cognate. And, this is... it's very fascinating when you go look at it. You dig up the word for cane there, kane, Strong's H7070, and it's translated a stock or reed. And one of the translations, according to the NASB translation, is calamus. And if you look up what calamus is a plant. It's not cannabis, it's calamus. But interestingly enough, it treats inflammation and diarrhea and stomach issues. And according to WebMD, it is thought that chemicals in calamus cause muscle relaxation and sleepiness. These chemicals might also reduce swelling, kill cancer cells, and kill insects. So there's that aspect of it. But also, if you keep going down the Wikipedia page here, Raphael McCollum and co-workers at Hebrew University of Jerusalem suggest an alternative etymology for cannabis. The Greek cannabis, from Arabic kunab, from the Syriac kunapa, from the Hebrew panag, which equals banga in Sanskrit and bang in Persian. They explain that in Hebrew, only the consonants form the basis of a word, and the letters P and B are frequently interchangeable. The authors think it probable that panag, mentioned in the Bible by the prophet Ezekiel, Ezekiel 27:17, which we'll dig into in a second here, is in fact cannabis. The biblical Hebrew term kane bosem, literally aromatic reed, kane reed, and bosem aromatic, probably refers to cannabis according to some etymologies, but it is more commonly thought to be lemongrass, calamus, or even sweet cane due to widespread translation issues. And later on in this thing, it says cannabis was a common material among the Hebrews. The hempen frock called simla in Hebrew was worn as a mark of the lowly. The International Standard Bible Encyclopedia also asserts the following, which again references this idea of hemp being used, which is not surprising if you know anything about some of the plants that were around back then and what it was used for. Even at the beginning of the founding of this country, hemp was being used for rope and paper and all kinds of stuff. And then I did look up the article that was referenced on the ScienceDirect.com, a random walk through a cannabis field. And the study, I couldn't actually get the paper, which cites the whole connection with not the cane word, but the panag word, panag from Ezekiel 27:17 being referenced to cannabis. And in the abstract here, it says, in the first part, we discuss and try to explain the reason for the absence of the term cannabis and possibly also opium in the Old Testament. In the second part, we bring evidence that contrary to widely held views, stereospecificity, that's a hard word to say, of cannabinoid action is extremely high and in certain cases almost absolute. So that's why I'm very interested in finding out more about this use of cannabis in the Old Testament here. And I looked up panag, and according to Strong's, this word is only used once in the entire Bible, and it's used by Ezekiel. And I like the translation here from Strong's. probably a kind of food, perhaps cake. That's their definition.
Maybe cake? I don't know.
Cake? We think it was cakes. So, like, even the Strong's Concordance is uncertain about the word here. And of course, Strong's being a little bit older in some of the translational methods and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that there was some cannabis being used on this altar. Again, there's no place in the Bible that tells you that you're supposed to mix cannabis and animal poop and make some kind of weird hash thing going on little altars and burn them and whatever. But there is some suggestion that perhaps it was used in the anointing oil for the royal priesthood, and perhaps Ezekiel was referencing a similar type of situation where I think the passage here talks about trading balm and wheat and millet, is translated in the English as millet. But it's another one of those things you got to look into at least and keep an open mind about, because we know that the whole cannabis industry, partly why it's illegal and all that kind of stuff, has to do with the propaganda of the tobacco companies back in the early century there. So that's all I have to say about it. What do you think, Basil?
Very interesting topic, and one that is both, I wouldn't say divisive, but lots of different views on that in our crowd. On really, I mean, it's a beautiful sight to see, people who can have differing views on something like cannabis, but still come together and get along. So it would be interesting to actually do a whole Canary Cry Radio episode on cannabis, and I know Mike Heiser has a lot of interesting things to say about it, as well, as far as its references to the Bible and things like that. So I don't know, maybe we'll have to put something together.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to dig into, because it's I think they had shown that some of the medicinal uses has done some good on cancer. And there was a story out a few weeks ago about how it helps prevent people from getting the Rona. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it made the rounds. So there's some interesting stuff happening there. Not suggesting everyone go out there and start packing whatever. But
that's good. Well, good. We're going to start landing the plane guns. I do have a live update, though. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. I'll stall for you while you find the drone jingle.
Okay.
But poking around again. Another reason why I love doing live shows, because things can pop up. People send me stuff during the show here, and something came through that was interesting enough. I thought we should mention it on the show. This is Vice.com, and the article's titled "Customs and Border Protection is Flying a Predator Drone Over Minneapolis."
Ooh.
Drone strikes have saved lives.
Can we shoot them down if over our property?
Drones.
Customs and Border Protection is flying a Predator drone, military technology used for surveilling and killing terrorists abroad or Americans. But we don't need to talk about the Obama presidency here.
What? Obama did bad things? I did not know this.
Obama's fine.
I did not know this.
Over Minneapolis, let me just start this over. Customs and Border Protection is flying a Predator drone, military technology used for surveilling and killing terrorists abroad, over Minneapolis as protesters continue to demonstrate against police brutality. According to publicly available flight data, the drone flown over Minneapolis is an unarmed version of the aircraft. The drone was first spotted on a flight tracking tool by members of the ADSB Exchange, a community of flight watchers who use open source flight data to monitor America's skies. Presumably, the drone is surveilling protests there, though CBP did not respond to a request for comment about what the drone is doing there. Quote, CBP Predator drone CPB-104 circling over Minneapolis at 20,000 feet. Jason Palladino, an investigative reporter at the Project on Government Oversight, tweeted on Friday, quote, took off from Grand Forks Air Force Base. These latest protests come after a white police officer killed George Floyd, an unarmed black man, earlier earlier this week. The officer and 3 others involved in the incident were fired on Friday. The Associated Press reported that the officer who knelt on Floyd's neck has been arrested. Motherboard verified the flight path of CPB-104 with flight data from ADS-B Exchange, a repository of unfiltered flight data. The drone took off from the Air Force Base before making several hexagonal-shaped flyovers around Minneapolis, according to the data. At the time of writing, the drone is still above the city. And I don't know if you can get that
I had some pulled
visual up there. Very interesting.
I had the Business Insider here.
Yeah, 104 is a drone with a history. In a 2007 Popular Mechanics article, author Jeff Wise names that aircraft as a Predator. CBP-104 has no pilot on board. The plane is a Predator B, a sophisticated unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV. The article says, describing a surveillance action on the U.S.-Mexico border. CBP-104 is also named in daily drone flight logs from CBP from 2012, published by the Electronic Frontier Foundation. The drone's activities at the time included collecting synthetic aperture radar imagery and full motion video to aid in actions such as surveilling the border, as well as surveilling and busting cannabis grow ops and methamphetamine labs. In one instance, the logs note that the drone continued to circle and feed video of two officers until every suspect in a lab raid was arrested. According to the logs, this ongoing surveillance, quote, played an invaluable role in the arrests. In an online chat with Motherboard, Palladino also pointed to the aircraft's previous flights along the Canadian border, its near-perfect hexagonal flight path, and its constant altitude of 20,000 feet mentioned in the flight data as additional evidence that the aircraft is a drone.
Hexagram.
Hold on, let me see.
Just a straight up, hexagon, not hexagram, hexagon.
Yeah.
But still, that's very interesting.
There you go. Let me just blast through, see if there's anything else interesting in the article here. Motherboard has previously visited Grand Forks Air Force Base, blah, blah, blah. They talk about the base a little bit. In 2015, the FBI surveilled Black Lives Matter protests using aircraft over Baltimore after people there protested the police killing of Freddie Gray. After the publication of this piece, CBP confirmed it operated an unmanned aircraft over Minneapolis. Earlier today, a U.S. Customs and Border Protection Air and Marine Operations unmanned aircraft system was preparing to provide live video to aid in situational awareness at the request of our federal law enforcement partners in Minneapolis. The unmanned aircraft system provides live video feed, blah, blah, blah. Yep. There you go. Looking here. Nothing. Yeah.
They're putting the hex on over the city, and they're using the Saturn tornado shape.
Oh yeah, the hexagon, this Saturnal hexagon.
Yeah.
Ooh, some witchcraft drones, man.
Casting a hex.
Yeah. Booyah. All right, so there you go. If you're in Minneapolis, stay safe and watch out for air to surface missiles there.
This whole thing happened around St. Paul, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the capital of Minneapolis or Minnesota? I mean,
I don't know. I think Minneapolis is I don't know anything about Minnesota.
Minnesota, St. Paul. I memorized the 50 states and the capitals, man. I memorized that song. Okay, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Indianapolis, Indiana.
St. Paul from listening to Prairie Home Companions.
Oh, okay. But yeah, interesting. St. Paul being a biblical reference there.
Called it.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. Anything else coming up on the radar for you here, Gons, before we start landing the plane?
I think that's it for now.
Landing the drone. Why don't you hit that drone thing?
Drone strikes have saved lives.
Can we shoot them down if over our property?
Drones.
I'm so honored I stepped on you.
Drones. I know. I'd rather it be that way than the other way around. So good job, everybody. Good job, Gons. I'm sorry. Did I let you say any last words before we land here?
I just like Careberry305 on Twitch. Twin Cities, Twin Towers.
Ooh. Just connecting the dots, just asking questions, folks.
Yep, just asking questions.
That's it. Just why? All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Here's the thing. I want to give a big old thank you to a couple more Twitch followers, Spud the Mud. And I'm R. Rogers, or nope, one Mr. Rogers.
Oh, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers is here. That's great. We got all the cool guys over here on Twitch. Thank you guys for watching on Twitch. Thank you for watching wherever you are, YouTube, Facebook. We're happy to do it. Now, here's the thing you got to remember. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/CCNT, or you can head to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. And you can add value to the show in a lot of ways. Leaving ratings and reviews is a great way to do it. You can also send us your art, send us your jingles, send us your Canary Cry Radio related music. You can send all of that to canarycryradio at gmail.com. Canarycryradio at gmail.com. Go ahead and do that. But there's another way to help the show, and that's by letting people know. Y'all got your friends and family that still get their news from other podcasts or the mainstream media or their Facebook wall. Oh my gosh. Here's what you got to do. You got to save their lives. You got to walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then what? You got to shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages.
Hey, stop that!
You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy.
Leave the bird alone!
Never! Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. You got to go out there, rattle some cages. Let them know where to go, especially on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, sometime between 12 noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Let them know. They can head to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Thank you guys so much for following us and watching live there. It's got a lot of great stuff that's going to open up for us over the next couple weeks. And let's see, am I forgetting anything, Gonzo?
I don't think so. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening.
That's right. And make sure to tune in next time right here to Canary Cry News Talk. But until then, all together now, think outside the cage.
Look it up.
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up.
Leave the bird alone!
I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.